Welcome to part 2 of this video series on Savage Worlds and Fantasy Grounds. Today we will cover character creation. When you first load into a game, the screen that is greeting you should look something like this. So you have character selection right in the middle and you have all these buttons to the right side. And the first thing that we'll do is we'll go to Library and Modules and load all the modules that are available to us. Now, generally, the DM should only make modules available to you that make sense for character creation and day-to-day play. If there is a whole bunch of different modules in here, maybe ask your DMs which one you are supposed to load. We'll load this one up. And then we click on Create PC in the library. Well, and click on the little plus down here in the right side to make a new character. Now in the upper left corner, a new where has appeared with an unnamed character. And since I want to show magic today, we'll make a wizard called Mason Longbeard. The other thing that you should do first is take up a portrait. We go to Suede and just select one of those dwarves with a very long beard. Sure, why not this one? Okay, the first tab that you should start with is the main tab. In the main tab, you have your race, and the age, edges, hindrances, and abilities that come from your race. We'll start with race. We'll open this up. Now, in most Savage World setting, you will be playing a human, and that is also the character I will create today. If you have another character like Thorin or Passion, then you can also just add this to race, and it should already show all the abilities that you get from these race. Always, if you're interested in what does a specific race or anything really give you, whenever you see this dragon, you can just click on it and it will give you a little bit of a description and then the racial abilities and what they do below. As we said, for today, we take human, and when I drag this here, adaptable appears in abilities. Now what does adaptable do? Humans begin play with any novice edge of their choosing. So great, we get an additional edge. Talking about edges and hindrances. I personally always start with hindrances first. Now, what do hindrances do? These are role-playing hooks. So you select something like arrogant. Let's look at this. Your hero doesn't think he's the best. He knows he is. So basically, you have to think, is my character that kind of person? Like, if I pick arrogant, would he be the kind of person who is like, really, no, I know what I'm doing. You have no idea what you're talking about. And if you say, yep, that's something that my character might be, add this to your hindrance. Now, what we need to pick is one major and two minor. There are edges that are entirely role-playing, like arrogant. There are also edges that actually have an effect on your character. Bad Eyes, for example, means that you get a -1 on any trait roll that depends on vision, such as ranged attacks or notice rolls, or a -2 as a major hindrance. Now I'm going to pick this as a minor. We need to pick one major and two minor. You can also take no hindrances, but I would not recommend it because for the hindrances that you take, you can pick more edges, also attributes. So definitely consider whether you're saying, oh, I don't want any hindrances, and then you just get this one edge from being adaptable, and that's it. You don't get anything else. And it's just, there's this general agreement within Suede that most people will take one major and two minor hindrances. So let's pick one more, and the one that I figured for this character might work very well is Quirk. So this character, whenever he has to cast a spell or so, needs to really make this weird hand gesture, even though it's not necessarily required for spell casting. So it doesn't really affect anything in the game, but it's still a quirk that you have, and maybe you're supposed to play out these hindrances as you're playing. And if it leads to really cool situations within the game, then your DM is encouraged to hand you over a Benny, which is the thing that lets you re-roll failed rolls. So definitely something to consider. Now with these hindrances chosen, we get 2 points from the major one, 1 point from each minor one, so 4 points total. Now it costs 2 points to buy an edge. So let's head over to edges. Now, as I said, I want to make this a wizard. So we'll take the arcane background magic for this one. As previously, if you want to know what does Ace do, just click the little dragon and you get the text with the description. Now, what would work really well with this arcane background? Maybe we want to really be able to cast spells as much as possible. And we have two options. We have Power Surge and Power Points. Power Points just gives me an additional 5 points. Alternatively, I can take Power Surge. So every time an action card is a joker, I get 10 power points. Now, I have some plans for the future of this character, so I'll take Power Surge over Power Points. And then we have one more from being adaptable. And in this case, I will simply take Scholar, which is this I know books. So let's add Scholar to our edges as well. This means we have our hindrances and edges done. And before we continue, we'll open all of these. Keep them to the side so we can read them when we need them. And we do the same thing with the hindrances. Keep them to the side so we can read them. Now we'll take a quick look. Quirk, there is no information about any stats changing or anything happening, so we can just close it. Arrogant is the same, it's just role-playing, so we can close it. That already frees up some space. And then we come to Bad Eyes. Now Bad Eyes gives me a penalty on any trade roll that depends on vision. That means it's a conditional thing that only happens sometimes and doesn't happen always. So we'll take this to the back. Say, well, maybe we need it later. For now, let's just keep it on the side. Arcane background. That one doesn't do anything in particular. Power Surge, the same. Scholar, however. This one gives, you need to pick one of the following skills. Academics, Battle, Occult, Science, or a smart-based knowledge type skill allowed in your setting. And you get a +2 whenever you use it. Now for this character, I thought he knows magic, so let's give him Occult. So what we do is we click on Scholar and this line below it appears. And we do open brackets, Occult, +2, close brackets. What this does, every single time I roll for Occult, it checks if anywhere on my sheet there is a +2 happening. And if it finds one, it will add that on top. And if I had Occult 2 here as well, I know it doesn't make sense, but just as an example, then it would actually give me a +4 total, but it would list the bonuses separately. So it would tell me you get a +2 from Scholar and a +2 from Power Surge, which is a total of a +4. So this is how you would very simply add. Now for increases in any trade roll, you would just do trade name plus and then the amount that you get a plus. For anything a little bit more involved, I would recommend to check the wiki or check effects up here because that has a lot of very interesting effects and so on, and how would you write this in there. Most edges, if they are just doing this one thing and they're doing it really well, for example, block gives you +1 parry and reduces the gang up bonus. And as you can see, that one actually already has the coding in. If I were to add this to my sheet, you will see that it has the add gang up bonus -1 on there, and the +1 parry is automatically applied here, so I don't need to do anything else there. Good. With all of this done, we can move on. Oh yeah, let's give it a gender. I don't know, 45. I'm not super old. Let's go to traits. In traits, we have our attributes, skills, various stats, wounds, fatigue, our advances, and our languages. Then let's begin with the attributes. To check how many points we've spent, we'll open the plus down here. And then we get 5 points to spend on our attributes. Now, if we would have said we reduce the amount of edges that we have by 1, we could also have gotten an additional attribute increase instead. But for me personally, I'd much rather have more edges. Again, this decision is up to you. Let's first check our edges if there are any requirements for an attribute. Lucky for us, this is not the case, so we can just spend our attributes as we would like. Now I want a really smart cookie. So to increase a skill or an attribute is you hold Control and mouse wheel up. Alternatively, you can also drag and drop a die directly on top of here. But I personally prefer just using mouse wheel. I find it easier. As you can see, we have 3 attribute points spent. We have 5 in total. So let's also increase our spirit and our agility. Smart is how intelligent your character is. Spirit is basically how well he deals with mental shocks. Agility is how fast you are or how nimble you are. Strength is how strong you are. And vigor is how much physical abuse you can take. With that, we are done with our attributes and we move on to skills. Now with skills, we can see Scholar requires a research of a D8. So let's open skills on the right side and scroll down until we have research and add that 1 point and increase it up to a D8. As you may notice, there are already some skills here. These ones are given for free from Swate, and we have another 12 points that we can give away. So it's 5 plus 12, which is 17 total. So as soon as we reach 17 skills, we need to stop. So otherwise we are having too many. Now for power search, we need our arcane skill at a D8 as well. So let's take spellcasting, add this to our sheet, and increase it to D10. I know I only need D8 for power search, but since my Sparks is at a D10, I might as well increase my spellcasting to the same amount. Now if I were to increase it to a 12, have you seen how it went from the 12 skills to 14 skills? Due to my attribute being lower than the die now, it actually costs 2 points to move forward. So you really want to take this into consideration before you're just increasing one skill really high. It costs 2 points if you increase it above the attribute. Now some other skills that might be good for this character is a little bit of repair, maybe knows a little bit about science. And then I always recommend to have at least a base skill in fighting, so you're not completely worthless when somebody attacks you or if you run out of spells. And then finally we need to take Occult, of course, because otherwise our Scholar Edge is not doing anything for us. I'm going to increase this to a D6. That's 17 skills in total, and that's all we're going to need. Now let's do a try whether this Occult that we've done earlier works. So let's just roll for it by double clicking the die, and you can see that the Scholar Edge has added the +2. Now it would also do that for Science if we were to pick Science, so let's roll for Science. And on here, it didn't add the +2. So it's really only the thing that you write in the brackets. For Bad Eyes, we actually have something. So when it relies on eyesight, we get a -1. I would now pick some skills where I think eyesight might be a problem. So in this case, athletics, maybe notice. The rest should probably be fine. So let's do this one and this one. Just drag the dragon back in and it will make a duplicate. Make sure that the dice match. Now in our case that is easy because we left them at a D4. You right click, modifier, and then write in Bad Eyes. -1, and then I would also write Bad Eyes in here so I remember, or maybe even better is eyesight. So I remember, oh yeah, every time I roll this it's because of my eyesight being bad. Same thing for notice. So now if it's just a regular athletics roll where it is jumping out of the way, so that one doesn't rely too much on sight, you could roll this one. But if it is like throwing a stone, then this one would be the right one. Because there your Bad Eyes actually may make a problem. And the same goes for notice. If it's just hearing, so you lean up to a door to listen what is going on the next side, and it would just roll regular. But if it is something like, I want to see what is in the room, you would then roll with the one with a -1. The derived stats are automatically done, so let's just do toughness for a second because it's the easiest for me. If I increase my vigor roll, you can see that my toughness also increases. So generally you don't have to deal with derived stats. Only exception is a couple of hindrances might reduce your pace and you need to check whether this is applied correctly or not. Again, here just right click modifiers and then you can add it as a separate line. Once we are done with all of this, do one last check. Is everything applied from our edges and hindrances? And if so, we can just close everything up that we have open right now to clean up some space. And we'll skip combat and powers for now and move straight to inventory. Inventory is split up into multiple tabs. We have Monday, weapons, armor, vehicles, and nodes. Let's begin with mundane items. We go to items, open the item tab, and we have a whole list of stuff that we want. Now for now, since my character is poor, generally we always start with 500 currency, but ask your DM if that is not the case. I will definitely get a backpack. We'll reduce it to 450 and a bedroll, so 425. And then I will have an item that is not in this list, an amulet that I'm wearing, probably weight of 1. And yeah, that will do for now. And then your bedroll, you're not just carrying on your person, you probably have that in a backpack. So you can go to location, write backpack, and now this one is below that category. You can go even one further, which is what I like to do. I have a category just called worn, doesn't have any weight. And I will have everything that I'm wearing directly on my body in this category. And it will even arrange them this way. So now you have the category worn and then everything that you're wearing in that category. And then in the backpack, you also have a bedroll. So you can make them interdependent of each other. Let's move on to weapons. Now, I'm not really a strong fighter, so probably everything that I have is staff. Whenever you see this lens, you can just type in what you're searching for and press enter, and you will get a list of everything that contains this name. In our case, we wanted a staff, so we found one. I don't think we would have any ranged weapon. Doesn't really make sense on this character. So we'll stick with the staff. And since we have that one equipped, we click on the symbol back here, and it turns into that worn armor symbol. And that means you're actually having it equipped. Otherwise, you're just carrying it around with you. Let's go to armor. We do the same. Again, here, I don't think I have anything fancy. Probably just some kind of rope. Let's put this in and equip it. Quick note, if you have a helmet that gives you +1 on armor when your head is being attacked, do not equip it unless there is an attack going against your head. It's a little bit tricky because Fantasy Grounds doesn't understand whether you're attacking the body or the head or anything else. And it will just give you that straight +1, even though it would only apply when you're being attacked on your head. So just remember that. It basically ignores your proportions. I generally just have all the armor equipped that covers the main torso, and then try to remember my modifiers whenever something else gets attacked, because the majority of the attacks will be against the torso anyway. Good. With all of this done, we can see we've nearly reached our limit. I also need to reduce this again a little bit, and I think I forgot the staff earlier, which was how expensive? 10. So let's do this so we're not skimping out of money, and then we'll just use dollars in this weird world we're in. Good. With all of this done, we are done with the inventory tab. You could add vehicles here as well, and the notes is maybe for something like, I have an income of $500 per month. Okay. Now let's head to combat. In combat, you can see that the weapon that we've added is not listed here. We can already roll for attacks, and please stop rolling, and for damage. Woo, really good hit. Now, let's say we want to add more to this. Let's say we also want to be able to punch someone. So let's make a new one. You can just push the pen, press plus, and we'll call that one fist and open this up. Now this looks really scary, but it's actually relatively straightforward. This is a melee attack. Since we are just punching someone, it will deal a damage of strength. So I'll just type in strength here. Reach, minimum strength, all of this is not relevant for us. If there were any coding effects, you could do that here, but this is not the case, so we'll just leave it that. And now we have fist. And then maybe we do a ranged weapon as well. So throw stone. This one would then be a thrown weapon. The damage would be maybe 1d4. The range 2, 4, 8. Range of fire 1, shots 1, And I think the rest we can leave empty again. Now important, this is actually an attack. So what we'll do is we'll right click, modifiers, and then add our bad eyes to it, because this one is almost always going to be relying on eyesight, whether you hit with your stone throw or not. Good, okay. And then we move on to powers. Now we have our arcane background, which I'll need to grab, so I go back to the main tab, click here, so I have it open again. So we have arcane background magic. Let's select this here. We have 10 power points, and we get 3 starting powers. Let's open powers and look. This is a whole list of different spells. Don't get intimidated by it. Much easier if you go down here and just select novice spells, because these are all the ones that we can take. And then just take some that you think make sense. So I will take Bolt, Deflection, and Havoc. Bolt is an aggressive spell, so I just hit something. It's kind of like a fireball bolt hitting someone. Deflection makes it more difficult for enemies to hit you. This is particularly useful against ranged enemies. And then if I actually get into melee combat, I can use Havoc to push them back into the ground. So these are the 3 spells. Now in Savage Worlds, this is not the end, because you're supposed to actually give them a trapping. And my bolt is not just an arcane bolt or something. No. This is a fire bolt of doom. It doesn't change anything with the stats, but definitely a DM should think about, okay, you've just hit an enemy which is covered in oil, maybe they catch fire. So other than that, the trapping should not have an effect on the spell. So you still roll the same die here, you still have the same damage. Now Deflection, I will call it Mirror Image. And Havoc, I will just call Back Off. The name of these spells, again, doesn't have any effect. It's just important that you really think about what trapping does it have. Now, if I were to say, I don't only want a firebolt, I also want an ice bolt, you would actually need to take the power twice, and then you could have 2 different trappings for your spell. This is always something you can discuss with your DM, and there is also an edge that allows you to change the trappings on the fly. So maybe consider that if you want to do really a lot of changes. And then we have 1 tab left that we haven't used yet, and that is notes. Now, I personally do not use notes for the backstory, but for how I leveled up my character. So on first level up, I will increase my strength. Because not being able to carry anything more, even though I'm not carrying a lot, is really restrictive. So I will just say, I'll get that strength increase, and then I can carry a little bit more next time. What would also be a good idea is if you have something like this. So you see that there are these rank dependencies. Now I have Power Surge, which gives me 10 power points whenever I draw a Joker. So what would be really cool for me is if I had an edge that allowed me to draw more cards. And there is actually an edge like that called Level Headed. That one, every round you get to draw an additional action card and choose which one you use. That's great, but it requires me to be seasoned, which I am not. So I could write down Level Headed question mark. So I remember, oh yeah, maybe at that point I take them. And then I might say, at some point I need a new power, so I'll just write new power down here. And then when I get to the actual level and think I have nothing to increase, I can check down here. Oh, right, I wanted to increase this. And you can just very easily figure this out. This makes it easy for you, and it also makes it easy for your DM, because you can both very simply figure out, I have done these things on every level up. Now, once you're done with this, take one quick look again at your character, just check everything, that all the abilities, traits, and so on, everything is done correctly. And when you're happy with it, tell your DM, please give me the XML file of the character. Now, the way this is done is as follows. I'll quickly swap over to DM view. So here you have all the characters as the DM. We'll open Edit List and then click the blue markdown. This will open a new window where you can save this file. And then, should anything terrible ever happen, you at least have your character saved at level 1. I would highly recommend to do that, just to be on the safe side. Now, as a final thing, I want to talk about level ups. You can do 3 things as a level up. You can increase an attribute. You can only do this once per rank. So once per novice, once per seasoned, once per veteran, once per heroic, and then with legendary things break down a little bit. Skill increases are the other choice. So you can either choose 2 new skills, increase 2 skills up to the associated attribute, or increase 1 skill above the associated attributes. And then the final choice that you could make is taking another edge. There is also a special case that I allow in my games, and I think most DMs will be open for it. You can get rid of a hindrance if it makes sense from a role-playing perspective that you no longer have that hindrance. Again, talk with your DM. And with that, we come to the conclusion of this video. I hope you enjoyed it and look out for more videos to come soon. See you, bye bye.